Hey, want to save the world?
Okay.
You are the Phantom 2040. Use your ultra-quick reflexes and an arsenal of weapons in over 100 combinations to battle fierce enemies through 60 levels. And with 20 different endings, you better move fast.
Okay.
Play Phantom 2040 from Viacom New Media.
Hello and welcome to the Switch 2 podcast, a weekly podcast dedicated to all things Switch and Nintendo related. I'm going to be solo for this episode. Brian is on vacation. We saw a double feature at the movies, Ninja Turtles from 1990 and Shin Godzilla. Pretty cool to see those movies on the big screen. Shin Godzilla is an awesome movie. And of course Ninja Turtles, if you're a millennial, it's a favorite of course. But, seeing all these re-releases in the theaters is awesome. I would much rather see these than remakes. So I think the movie producers in Hollywood just keep giving us these old movies to watch. But it's been a busy week with game news. You had Gamescom and the Kirby Direct as well. So let's get right into the news.
F-Zero TV.
Before I get into Gamescom news, there's a few other things I want to talk about first. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion demo. It's released. And I gotta say, I didn't get to play it until a couple days after it came out. And the things I was reading online, I got worried. People were canceling their pre-orders because of how the environments looked. Okay, first of all, this isn't a AAA release. And that also tells me you know nothing about this game. If you're going to pre-order it, based on what? The first game wasn't the most visually impressive looking game. This is a smaller studio working on this. This isn't Nintendo, Well, even though it looks better than Pokemon, but that's besides the point. But really, you're gonna cancel a pre-order for a game because some of the graphics and details don't look the best? I don't know. I mean, have you played Xseed games, marvelous games like this? Rune Factory wasn't the most impressive looking game, but people still enjoyed that. People love Monster Hunter Wilds, and that barely runs on a PC. I feel like people complain too much, but after I got to actually play the demo, I enjoyed pretty much everything about it. I bought the first game on release date, and I've been a huge fan of it since. Gone are the Armored Core mission-based gameplay, and now it's open world. You do a lot of looting, which is fine, but now you do it in like a mecha-type environment, and I think it works. This is a natural progression for this series. There's really nothing to complain about. The combat is smooth. I like all the different weapons. Using things like grenades actually feel right now. It felt a little off in the first game. It's an improvement on everything, I think. Even the music. It's going to take some time to get used to all the different things. Like any open world game is, you got to learn it. But the demo is pretty long, and it's going to carry over to the release date, so I'll be playing more of that in the upcoming weeks. And it's not released yet, so maybe there's still some more polish to do. This could be based on an older build, who knows? Shenmue III is getting an enhanced re-release on Switch and Switch 2. Okay, I have to say the first Shenmue on Dreamcast is my favorite game of all time.
Do you know any sailors?
So I am beyond excited to get to play Shenmue 3 on the Switch 2. I played the first two games countless times. Shenmue 3, I played it once when it came out. That was it. There's something missing with this third game because Sega wasn't really involved with it, so you're missing fun things like the Sega collectible toys and the Sega arcade games and just the overall polish. This being more independently made with Yu Suzuki, yeah, it wasn't the best game. I still enjoyed it, but the enhanced version is getting boosts in visuals and performance and a lot of great quality of life updates. Things like the stamina system is going to be adjusted and the health restoration. NPCs are going to be filling out the villages and city more to make it feel more lived in, like the first two Shenmue games. That was one of the highlights of those games. So hopefully this re-release will do well enough to continue the franchise, because I know Yu Suzuki has a few of these games in mind, and that's fine with me. I'm a huge Shenmue fan. Let the man take his time with this story. I hate how people want this series to be rushed. It's like, he's a director, he's an artist, let him do his own thing. Yoshi P, the game director of Final Fantasy XIV, says the Switch 2 might be a good fit for Final Fantasy XIV. I played it when it first came out. I didn't really stick with it. I liked 11 more, but if this came out on Switch 2, I would definitely jump back into it. I liked playing as the summoner, so it'd be kind of fun to sort of revisit that whole class. And really, we here in the West need an MMORPG on the Switch too. Japan has Dragon Quest X and Phantasy Star Online 2. It's like, why didn't we get any of those releases? So I hope we get Final Fantasy XIV at least. It just seems natural. I mean, it is a dedicated handheld console. So to go out and play this, you probably won't be able to. I feel like you need to be connected online at all times for Final Fantasy XIV. But even just, sitting on a couch and playing it handheld would be great. So hopefully this is already being worked on, and they're just sort of focusing on Final Fantasy VII Remake for now. And once that comes out, heck, they might surprise us with the Final Fantasy XIV release date. So here's a game I wanted to talk about last week and I forgot about it, because I've been following it for a couple of years. It was announced a few years ago, and we finally have a release date for the indie game Demon School. Comes out September 3rd, and it's just a cool premise. It looks different. I like the art style. It reminds me of like gameplay and style of Persona 2, which is a nice throwback. Fighting demons. It looks like there's a bit of a social element in this game. The characters look unique enough, and I just enjoy a good tactical RPG. And one this fun looking, and it's an indie company, so it looks pretty neat, I gotta admit. So happy to finally see it being released, and I'm definitely gonna try it out, even though it comes out around the same time as Daemon X Machina. I'm gonna have to juggle those two games. September is gonna be a busy month for me, because then you also have, unrelated to the Switch, Silent Hill F. That looks amazing. Saw more gameplay footage of that at Gamescom. So yes, you Silk Song fans that have been asking for this for years, you finally have a release date for Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Okay.
Comes out around the same time as Demon School, September 4th. Now the issue here is they announced this game how long ago? 7 years ago? That's a mistake. I mean, and if you look at it, it's a 2D Metroidvania, so you kind of have to wonder, what did they spend all these years doing? But yeah, this was originally announced for the Switch, but now it's going to be on Game Pass on all the other consoles, so that's good for the fans. But yeah, these companies just stop announcing games like almost a decade before the release. That's what happened with Metroid Prime 4. But yeah, we're getting both of these games the same year. And maybe I'll revisit Hollow Knight before this one comes out. Let's talk about Gamescom. I guess the new E3 really had a lot of great looking games. Unfortunately, none of them are coming to Switch 2, but I mean, it's to be expected. But some surprises. You had Bubsy 4D.
What could possibly go wrong?
We talked about the Bubsy collection last week. But to get a brand new Bubsy game in 2025, it's a bit surprising. No release date, probably going to come out next year, and it actually looks pretty fun. It's a throwback, 3D platformer, a bit like Sonic. You can roll around as a ball. I don't think it's going to be as polished as Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it still looks pretty fun. Another throwback beat-em-up styled game. We talked about this with the Phantom, Ninja Turtles, Toxic Crusaders, and now we have He-Man, which I know Brian's excited about that. He was a He-Man fan, but no release date. It'll probably come out, I would say, at the end of the year. But we also have that Marvel beat 'em up coming out too. So yeah, it's a good time to be a beat 'em up fan. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I know some people that really enjoy that game, and it's apparently coming out to Nintendo Switch too, even though they didn't show gameplay footage. But it's coming out next year. You have some Cult of Lamb expansion also coming out next year. So yeah, let's talk about Elden Ring for a bit. It was one of the only games that people weren't allowed to record footage of the handheld version. There's footage of it docked. Docked, it looks fine. It's at that 30 frames. You're not going to get any better than that. But graphically, it looks decent. So docked, it seems fine. This is also probably an early build. We don't have a release date for it yet, so there's still time to get it all polished. But the footage there is out there of the handheld footage, yeah, it looks pretty rough, let's admit it. Because you know what looks great and runs great, both on handheld and docked? The Final Fantasy VII remake. There's footage of people playing it at Gamescom, and that game looks exactly like I remembered it on PlayStation 4. So for Square to be able to do that with that huge game, I mean, it's going to be a game key card, let's not kid ourselves. But then for From Software to barely get their game running on the Switch too, yeah, you gotta learn to get these things working right before presenting them. Brian was here. We were playing a bit of the Phantom on Switch. Unfortunately, I didn't get to save the footage, but it's a new beat 'em up. He picked it up, and then we started talking about the Kirby Air Riders Direct, and he had a lot to say about it. He liked what he saw. You know, he wasn't familiar with the first one on GameCube, but he said it looked better than Mario Kart World, which, you know, in some ways I think it does. We talked visually about how, like, at least in the racing mode, how the course changes, you know, it's not a lot of repeating, which Sakurai, you know, went to detail about. And I know when it comes to Kirby Air Rider on GameCube, the focus really isn't on the racing mode itself, but more so the city trial, which is returning in this game. And yeah, it looks great. The problem I had with the first Kirby Air Rider was I didn't know how to play it, but the way Sakurai presented it, it made it look like, yeah, it looks like something I can do now. You focus on the turning, the stopping, the drifting, more so than the accelerating, which is a different way to play a racing game. The whole presentation itself was very reminiscent of the old Smash Brothers Direct, which obviously that makes sense with Sakurai at the helm. The way they presented characters, you know, the very similar wording. It's cool. There's a nice cast of characters. You had Gooey and you had Cappy. Of course, the classics, Waddle Dee, Meta Knight. And yeah, I knew that this game would have a lot of heart and soul put into it. And now that we've seen footage, it's pretty evident that there's a lot to this game, which I guess is why we needed that 45-minute direct. Does not look very beginner friendly. It's going to take some time to get used to the controls and the different mechanics. This isn't Mario Kart, which is probably why they are releasing two racing games in the same year, because they're both very different. Kirby Air Riders, it's more focused on the battling with the city trials and the different little missions you do throughout the city trials. Whereas Mario Kart, it has a battle mode, but I feel like it's never been the major focus with Mario Kart games lately. They've been fun in the past, but lately everyone just focuses on the online racing. And also the 6 players, which I feel like was a little bit of a jab to Mario Kart World. You know, Sakurai mentioned how a lot of players might be too chaotic. He didn't like the idea of there's less chances of winning. So 6 players in a race is different. I kind of like that though. In the city trial, there will be more players. I feel like that's going to be the popular mode online. Choosing your rider and your vehicle, finding the right combination, the style of gameplay that you favor. Do you like speed? Do you like being more of a tank? Then also the different modes would favor different abilities, I feel like. Racing, I feel like I want to get something that's good at taking sharp turns and boosting. Battling, I probably prefer to be more of a tank. But yeah, it comes out November 20th. So that fills the November void that Brian and I discussed. We have Pokemon in October, Kirby Air Riders in November, December. I mean, it has to be a big game, right? I feel like December is going to be Metroid Prime 4. September, I think, is going to be a surprise release, maybe something Mario related. And it's going to be $70, which I guess is the going price now for future Nintendo games. I don't know what really constitutes $80 for something like Mario Kart. Kirby Air Riders has a lot packed into it, but that's going to be $70. Donkey Kong was $70. I think Metroid Prime's $70, right? Did they reveal a price for that? I mean, yeah, is it expensive? Sure, but that's the going rate for AAA games now, so unfortunately we have to get used to that. But yeah, my experience with the original Kirby Air Rider wasn't the best. I just felt more confused trying to play it. And but I totally understand what's going on with it. I don't know if it plays similar to this new one coming out, but the way Sakurai presented it, and he should do this for all directs, even if it's not a Sakurai based game. He just presents these things, even if it's just such minor details, but everything just makes sense now that I've watched this direct. I thought maybe they would release, the original GameCube version on the GameCube Online service. It seems very bizarre that they didn't do that. I know we have Chibi Robo, but yeah, when a bit of Kirby Air Rider fatigue, if it's not out now, why wait until closer to this new game's release date? Yeah, Sakurai totally sold me on Kirby Air Riders. I think that's the way they're going to go in the future, have these game-focused direct for their big games. It worked for Donkey Kong Bonanza. A lot of people got interested in that after that direct. And with this Kirby Air Riders direct, it's Sakurai. He does things a little differently. But it sold me on the game. I'm sure the next one we're going to get is Metroid Prime 4. I'm already going to buy it. But I'm curious for people on the fence to see what they can do with the Metroid Prime 4 focused direct. But yeah, stay tuned. Next week, Brian will be back. Maybe we'll get some more gameplay footage going on. I like playing the games here with Brian. And maybe we'll get another Nintendo Direct. Who knows? If you're on Spotify, thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube, thanks. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. You know how it goes. Thanks a lot for listening, everyone, and bye.